Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Doug Rice Show, brought to you by Twidwear. Twidwear, sportswear, twid gear. It's everywhere. It's the brand. Let me tell you, folks, looking good. I feel good. Well, I am good. How are you this morning? Oh, yeah, baby. I like that. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is the Doug Rice Show. I am Doug Rice. Welcome aboard. Welcome to the show where I wake you up every morning, 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, to give you the news, to give you the reason to get that goddamn grin off your Negro faces. You have no business wearing a grin out in public places. Dear God, it's encroaching on disgraces. All right, I'm done. Good morning. How you doing? It's the 13th. It's November 13th. It's 2023, and take a gander and look at me. Oh, baby. I like that. It looks good. It looks good. It is good. It looks good. Twidwear. TWID. That's what I do. You know what I do? Let me tell you what I do. I say it. That's what I do. You know, everybody's got something that they do. This is the reason I embrace the Twidwear brand, because that's what I do. See, and it's a catchphrase that applies to anything you want to do, anywhere you want to, because, baby, that's what I do. You understand? Everybody's got something. Everybody's got something. I've got the spoken and written word. That's what I do. And sometimes I'm a bit absurd. I understand it. But that's just the way things are. Hey, go to Twidwear, wear some sports gear, and look like a star. That's what I do, baby. Welcome. Doug Rice Show. They're continuing to lose their minds over. I point over this way because the big screen is over there. So, and the Israelis, the Ashkenazi imposters who have lost in court. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Hey, that was quite a ride, wasn't it? Let me tell you what they did. Before we get into the topic, anti-blackness, colorism, these types of things, do me a favor. Would you like, subscribe, share, all of the good things that you like to do down there? Do me a favor, do that. Thanks for tuning in. Now, I don't play for a large audience when I go live. Let me tell you how I try to survive. I survive on the replays that occur in the coming days. So hopefully y'all will tune in to the Doug Rice Show. Hopefully. All right. So it's interesting what's happening over here in the state of confusion, in the state of melee, and Israel is just socking it in, man. They're just, I was going to discuss something else, but I think this is important. Israel is accusing Hamas of, using the hospital situation to target, get people out, weapons in. It's true. It's true. I've listened to the recordings, but you see, everyone is so enraged by what's going on, the loss of life, the Palestinian children, all of this horrible occurrence is being overshadowed by the facts. And let me tell you something, Israel got it coming. Why should the facts be overshadowed that you want to be ignored and not the facts overshadowed that you want paid attention to? No. It's a two-way street. Do you see how it works? Isn't it frustrating, Israel? I mean, you got proof too, don't you, Israel? Don't you, State of Israel? Don't you, Netanyahu? You got proof that they're doing exactly what you say they're doing, and you know what? They won't pay attention to it. Isn't it a frustrating thing? I mean, you got audio, you got pictures. You can prove that Hamas is using hospitals to shelter themselves, transport weapons, move people from place to place. I know it's a fact. You can put it right in my face, and I don't take sides. I don't care what happens to either of you, whether you're a Palestinian or whether you're a Jew. But I know what facts are, and I can understand how frustrating it can be for you, State of Israel, when you have the facts to prove an action that you take, and everybody still calls your facts fake. Ain't it something? Please. Welcome. The Doug Rice Show. This is me, just so you know, I am Doug Rice. And, there's a price to be paid when you open your mouth and say the truth. When you do that, mines hit the roof. And that's what's happening to me. I don't want to get into many details, but let's just say I would hope that you support this effort anyway. So if you could do that, just look down below. You'll see how you're able to support this show. And we take Cash App, we take Patreon, we take Venmo, just so you know, we take it all. Don't let the show fall, folks. We're on the precipice. We live by the grace of God Almighty every day. And let me remind you while I say, thanks be to the creator of all things, the God of Abraham, the blessings he brings. And let's start the show off like that daily. I have not paid attention to that. In that regard, I've failed ye. And I apologize. All praises to the Most High God of all creation as we open up the show. And let me make sure, Detrina, if you're down there so you know, if I forget, make sure to put that in chat so that we get that out the way. Because first I got to praise God Almighty before I say what I got to say. Selah, Selah. That's about as preachy as I'll get it because, I curse. So if there's anything that might come out of my mouth, it's a bit terse. My apologies in advance. Yes. All right, here we go. Thanks again for taking a chance on the Doug Rice Show. 8:07 in the morning on the 13th of November. In case you didn't know, I'm going to walk you into work today. That's what I do every day, folks. Okay? Setting aside all the jokes, I've been doing this since January 6, 2021. And now we've been on a damn good run. I want to keep it, too. And ever since Cassidy showed their behinds, well, I got to tell you, that's been on my mind. But today, I got something I'm going to shoot your way, a PDF that you can get. You don't even have to pay. You can ask for it. It'll be a give. But, if you want to donate something, that'd be good so we can live. Detrina, my moderator, we all depend on the charity of our family now. This is what we do permanently. So if you are in the position to assist us, please do so and such and thus. All right, well, that went well. All right, folks, again, this brought to you by Twidware. My name, Doug Rice, Doug Rice Show. Today we're going to go over something I think you should know. It involves anti-blackness and colorism. Anti-blackness and colorism, all right? It is, I'd say, one of the most under-talked about topics out there. Folks aren't really getting into the weeds of their mental needs regarding this topic, but we're going to get into it today, and I'm not going to drop it. Anti-blackness, colorism. This is a writing by Genevieve Williams Comrie, Antoine M. Landor, PhD, Quinn Townsend Riley, Jason D. Williamson, Esquire. That's interesting. I'm sitting here looking all crazy at the writing and can simply increase a little bit here. Let's see. All right, here we go. Anti-blackness, colorism. Again, this is a write-up by Genevieve. I like that. That's a good name. Genevieve Williams Comrie, Antoinette M. Landor, PhD, Quinn Townsend Riley, Jason D. Williamson, Esquire. My goodness. So their bona fides give them license to write. Let's moving on. The reason people think it's important to be white is that they think it's important not to be black. That by one of my favorite authors, James Baldwin. James Baldwin is one of the consummate writers of our generation. If you have not delved into writers that I try to aspire to, James Baldwin, all of these individuals are thoroughly qualified for you to read and glean from them their position during their time. And James Baldwin had a very interesting look. I got to tell you got to pick up his book. All right, I'll recommend James Baldwin all day. All right, so let's get into this and see what he says, see what's happening. So anti-blackness and anti-black racism. It's a poignant subject right in our face. All right, I'm sorry. Anti-blackness is defined as the beliefs, attitudes, and actions, practices, and behaviors of individuals and institutions that devalue, minimize, and marginalize the full participation of Black people. And this is very interesting that number 2 references what they have as proof below, but visibly or perceived to be of African descent. It's very important you understand, because I say this without relent. Even if they associate the person they're looking at with a Negro, that is good enough for them to take action against that person. So that's just the truth. It's not simply being a Negro, it's being reminded of being a Negro that gets in their craw. Have you ever seen an incident? Because here's one I saw. Woman and her son, I suppose, they're just coming up on some circumstance. Police show up, and the police act in an aggressive manner in an effort to get everything under control. And it's not until the woman opens her mouth that sound grips his soul. She was an African of African descent, and as soon as she heard her accent, he did relent. And so it's not simply being Negro, it's being reminded of being a Negro that turns them into whatever they turn into. Moving on. All right, apologies, I had to make that point. It is the systematic denial of Black humanity and dignity which makes Black people effectively ineligible for full citizenship. Ooh. The anti-Blackness paradigm positions Blackness as inherently problematic, rather than recognizing the long, rich, and diverse history of Black people throughout the African diaspora, and acknowledging that Black communities across the United States and the world have been severely disadvantaged as a result of historically and contemporary systematic racism. My goodness, what an opening salvo. What an opening shot, right? I mean, it's right there. It's right there. It's out there now. It's in the air. Do me a favor, share, like, subscribe, do all the things that you might like, and hit the notification bell. I can't tell if the notification, well, I don't know if it works so well. So hit it anyway. You know, they'll suppress this kind of talk amongst Negroes. Again, brought to you by Twitware. What? This is sharp, and you tell the truth. Shame the devil, because they looking at us. You believe it. Okay, we'll get back to it. Anti-Blackness is also closely related to anti-darkness, colorism, as it amplifies and prioritizes proximity to whiteness. That is a powerful statement. Colorism, the term used to describe the unequal treatment of and discrimination against individuals based on their skin tone, is rooted in and perpetuates white supremacy and racism by privileging and upholding Eurocentric beauty standards. And needless to say, those beauty standards are imposed upon the psyche of Black people everywhere, specifically in Africa, where the lightening of dark skin is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Just wanted to put that in there as well. Eurocentric physical features, lighter skin, narrow nose, straighter hair, are afforded greater value and considered more desirable than Afrocentric physical features. The examples given here are darker skin, broader nose, and more coarse hair. Thus, the closer to whiteness and further away from Blackness individuals are, the more privilege and power they are assigned in society, and in essence, the more power they have. Now, any of this strike you as falsehood? I'd like you to just, let me know. If you think this is true, do me a favor, give me a 1. I like that. I've never done that before. Give me a 1 in the chat. I can't see you because it's just like that. It's something I wanted to say, and we've now gotten it out of the way. All right, so what's coming next? Let's keep going. Many notable scholars in this area, including W.E.B. Du Bois, Angela Davis, Ibram X. Kendi, and Michael J. Dumas, have illustrated a complex and disconcerting vision of anti-Blackness and what it has offered white Americans. The policies and practices designed to uphold white supremacy are the same policies and practices that harm Black people and communities. Dumas argues that the aim of theorizing anti-Blackness is not to offer solutions to racial inequality, but to come to a deeper understanding of the Black condition within a context of utter contempt for and acceptance of violence against the Black. Wow. Hence, anti-Blackness lives in values and beliefs that can render Black bodies disposable, resulting in, among other things, the over-surveillance, over-policing, and under-protection of Black people in American society. This inability to recognize Black humanity is, in part, what maintains white supremacy. So, they lay a foundation, I think, rather well. It's an interesting story these individuals tell. And it's almost as if there's a different kind of cell. This could almost be some kind of justification for us to leave. This isn't really a justification of us to stay. I mean, although most will stay any damn way. But this anti-Blackness colorism writing is all about trying to right the wrongs of racism within this country, and that, my friends, has gone on for too long and can never be corrected. So though I'm certain this has been accepted and injected, there's still nothing that leaves Black people protected. Next! All right, let's keep going. Don't drop your phone. I'm not paying for phones anymore. Anti-Black racism is a specific kind of racial prejudice directed towards Black people, or those perceived to be Black, more than merely a product of a few bad actors or individual prejudice. Anti-Black racism is a systematic and structural. It is systematic and structural. It systematically marginalizes Black people and communities and devalues Blackness in all contexts. Preach! Let's continue. Although the past few years have brought about more familiarity with concepts like racism and white privilege, the concept of anti-Blackness is often overlooked. The term racism, however, fails to fully capture the experiences of Black people, including, but not limited to, Black women, men, trans Black people, Black gender, non-conforming, non-binary, and Black youth, Black girls and boys, Black families, Black migrants, Black communities, etc. I thought he was just going to keep going. Sorry. I need this water. Thus, we can no longer afford to rely simply on our outstanding understanding of racism generally, lest we flatten, minimize, and distort the Black experience in America. And we must be intentional in our acknowledgement of the specific harm caused by anti-Black racism. Moreover, this concept pushes back against the notion that all racial and ethnic minority groups have similar lived experiences that can be generalized into one category, like people of color. I can't stand that term. People of color gloms everybody into one group and makes everybody's experience within the racist cacophony of caucasity that we all are trapped within the same experience. And it ain't the same experience. Let me tell you, and you know, while I'm on this subject, who's got better stats than the Jew? Let me just explain what I mean. Don't get in your feelings. You know, they've literally critically categorized and percentiled every single act against every single demographic in this country. And the top of the food chain, leading the pack, black Negroes getting attacked every day. I mean, is in every kind of way, in every indiscriminate thing that you can say. I guarantee it. They've printed it so you can see it. So don't glom everybody up into people of color or black, indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC, POC. That's an insult to the individual experiences and histories of individuals who go through those experiences within the confines of this caucastic cacophony. Whatever, let's move. People of color and BIPOC, I don't like that either. Anti-blackness is without analog. Thank you. Hence, such comparisons or conflations serve to undermine the specific centrality of anti-blackness to U.S. society, its institutions, policies, and practices. Yes! And to be clear, one does not have to be white to contribute to anti-blackness or adopt anti-black attitudes. Let me reread that for those of you in the back. And to be clear, one does not have to be white to contribute to anti-blackness or adopt anti-black attitudes. It's a point so many of us forget. You know, it just doesn't come from them. It just doesn't come from the YUPs, as I hear some of us call our oppressors. You know, it comes from everywhere. Anywhere that you walk as a black man, as a Negro in this country, you can believe as every last nation conspired against you to enslave you and put you where you are, they look at you as less than either that or they look at you as a star. It's a simply crazy dynamic. I had to say it, I'm sorry. Okay, and to be clear, we've done that. All right, indeed, anti-blackness, no, that's not it. In fact, anti-black racism is not just about the racial oppression of black people by whites, but by other racial and ethnic groups as well. Whew, do tell. All of which have themselves been heavily influenced by white supremacy. Indeed, anti-blackness and anti-black racism reside and thrive within institutions and ideologies of white supremacy, whiteness, and fear of blackness, and have a profound effect on anyone forced to engage with those institutions, ideologies, irrespective of their own racial or ethnic background. Oh my goodness. The history of anti-blackness and anti-black racism. Now, before we get into this, let me pause for the cause. I need to do this. We are brought to you once again by Twidwear. Twidwear is the sportswear. I'm going to pause right here for the cause, because if I don't think I'd be doing my job. Twidwear, sports gear. I want everybody to please pay attention here. We are sponsored officially by these individuals. Look at this. Dear God, don't you want one? Of course you do. And so the only way to obtain one and get 10% off is to go to Twidwear right here, as I put it up on the screen. And as you'll see, the sports gear and apparel is what you need. No, seriously, Twidwear, sports gear. Gosh, do I have it not there yet? Okay, there we go. Twidwear is our sponsor. I'll get it right if it takes all night. These are the guys that bring us to you, but they also need your support too. This is a Negro-owned operation. It too is for our own edification. It's for the support until we get out of here. You understand? So he's got the same mindset. He's the same kind of man. He is a woke Negro, and he has all sorts of great products. He's got skincare products. We're going to have the photos of the skincare products soon. But if you go to twidwear.com, the brand, and I like to say that because it is a brand, you're going to find the skincare products, and they're specifically designed and engineered for our melanin skin. So just let it sink in. All right, Twidwear is the sponsor of the Doug Rice Show. Get 10% off. Use the promo code TDRS. Tell your friends. This is where I think you should like and share the best. Please twidware.com, and that is me taking a pause for the cause because, hey, that's what I got to do. All right, back to the shoe. All right, here we go. What we're doing, folks, is we are looking into anti-blackness colorism, a paper that's put together by some fine minds, and I think they've got a bead on exactly what Negroes need. Let's continue. History of anti-blackness and anti-black racism. Here we go. Perhaps more than any other facet of American life, the issue of race and anti-black racism specifically has been the defining characteristic of this country. Dear God. Indeed, the economic, social, and moral foundation of the United States has been shaped largely by the 400 years of chattel slavery, state-sanctioned terror, legal and de facto segregation, mass incarceration, and over-policing, voter disenfranchisement, and ongoing discrimination that continue to dominate both our history and our current reality, all of which is rooted in the notion that to be black is to be inferior, incapable, unworthy, less than a human, and most importantly, deserving of the physical and psychological mistreatment and marginalization to which we have been subjected. Can you believe that's one damn sentence? Oh my God, it started from Indeed. That's a hell of a good read. I like that one. That's what I need. All right. In this sense, anti-blackness is part of the foundation upon which the United States was built and has been a way of life in this country from its inception. Whether it be the wealthy white male power structure bent on taking whatever steps are necessary to maintain its control over black and brown people and communities, or the poor and middle-class white mainstream, which has been convinced that whatever troubles or obstacles that they may be experiencing in their own lives, their ultimate value lies in their whiteness, which will always prevail over blackness, no matter the circumstances or the context. Well, I wonder what's next. You know, the truth rings true. So what you gonna do? As many have suggested, the meteoric rise of Donald Trump over the last several years and the overtly racist undertones of his 2016 presidential campaign in particular are directly correlated to the ascendance of our first black presidents. Oh, dear God, let me tell you what they're saying without saying it. You know, Obama pissed these white folks off. Whoa! Obama made them mad, man. You hear me? You know, while half of them celebrated the rise of what they thought was a Negro to the highest office of the land, hold on. The rest of us who were woke and understood clearly knew this was not a black man. You know, I mean, he played the role, you know, but he wasn't a Negro to his soul. So, next, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, so the deep-seated anti-black and anti-immigrant sentiment among many white Trump supporters, while always percolating below the surface, revealed itself repeatedly in the wake of Barack Obama's reelection to the presidency from the racially charged threats repeatedly and protests by disgruntled white voters in the days and weeks following the 2008 election to the violent 2017 Unite the Right rally by white supremacists in Charlottesville, Virginia. You know, they got short memories, don't they? You know, these men that showed up in polo shirts and tiki torches were terrorizing. I don't know if you guys understand. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but in this land, when they came with torches, they wasn't coming to play. When they came with torches, it wasn't about listening what they had to say. So these tiki torch carrying right-wing white supremacists simply molded and melded back into the landscape of this country. And there they lay, waiting dormant. To do what, I wonder? Become an informant? No! You know what they wouldn't do. You know it as clearly as I'm me and you're you. Okay, let's just move on. Even among black and brown people themselves, the cause of anti-blackness have taken hold, leading many black people and communities to internalize this sense of inferiority and question their own worth, both as individuals and as a collective. As suggested above, the concept of colorism itself arises out of an internal disdain for darker skin tones and a reverence for lighter skin tones, and has been a source of discord and division in the black community and across the African diaspora for generations. As such, anti-blackness impacts every aspect of our lives, from education to employment, housing to healthcare, access to transportation to the administration of our criminal legal system. Long-standing inequities across all of these areas have combined to maintain the status quo over time and make it impossible for black and brown communities to compete or close the educational wealth gap. And to be clear, these inequities are neither coincidental or unconnected. Rather, anti-blackness in all its manifestations has been and continues to be an essential part of the concerted effort among the white establishment to entrench its own power. In particular, the anti-blackness crusade has been used to destroy, devalue the collective identity of black people, criminalize black people and communities, thus leading to fewer opportunities, more poverty, more dependence, and less political power, and marginalize black people and communities physically and otherwise to facilitate their exclusion and or erasure from privileged spaces in our society. Yes, you need to hear this. We don't talk about this enough. We don't discuss this enough. We don't chop it up enough about this topic. This wasn't written so they could move air from one part of the room to the other. This was moved and written so that we could share it amongst each other. That's why this was written. And I got to tell you, I'm quite smitten with the way that they put all that they have to say, and I'd read what they have to write any old day. Dear God, I mean, you know, this is the foundation for the beginnings of exit. This is the reason we need to believe in. I'm telling you, any other course is an act of deceiving. And that's just what I'm receiving. That's what I'm believing. That's just a fact. This place ain't ours, and it will never be that. Next. All right, let's continue. Core components of anti-blackness and anti-black racism. Okay, destruction, devaluation of identity. From the beginning, white Americans have sought to justify the enslavement of and discrimination against black people by arguing that we are less than fully human. You knew the Dred Scott laws, of course, that blackness in and of itself is so evil, so frightening, so deficient, so inferior to whiteness in every way that it warrants, even requires, the systematic oppression of an entire race. This is what they believe. This is the thought to which they cleave. Don't leave. Okay, I just wanted you to know that. This is what they believe. After all, how else could one explain away the glaring paradox of the American ideal, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that failed to include the men and women who built this country, and whose uncompensated labor is the ultimate source of white America's tremendous generational wealth? Yes, this is what they did, and they did it with some stealth, but it's out now. So if white Americans hope to sleep soundly at night, it was and is necessary to perceive black people as thoughtless, emotionless brutes, unaware of their own inferiority and in need of redemptions, or as 3/5 a person, unworthy of even being counted as fully human, or as violent, uncontrollable, hypersexual monsters incapable of rational thought or complex emotion. This is to whom some of you commit your devotion. You know, and you grin and you smile in their face. And you know, you look so out of place, especially with this information as a saving grace. So, in the American context, anti-Blackness has been not only a reality, but a requirement. Among those seeking to justify their own racist thoughts and behaviors, nothing could be more truthful written in print. And that, my friends, is why I will not relent. I like that one. With this current of anti-Blackness running through American history, it is no surprise that it has manifested both through the actions of individual, everyday Americans. Examples given: Charlottesville, George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin, and countless instances of white people questioning and or calling the police on Black people they perceive to be out of place, and through official government policies and regulations over time, from the explicit Jim Crow laws that dominated the pre-civil rights era to the less explicit but perhaps more insidious practices of law enforcement agencies, education departments, housing authorities, and other government entities that continue today. And what else does she have to say? Because she's telling the goddamn truth. I didn't curse. I came close, though. Whew. Sadly, anti-Blackness also manifests itself in myriad ways among Black people themselves, trying to make sense of their own existence. Not surprisingly, for many Black folks, the messages of inferiority, whether explicit or implicit, ultimately have a negative impact on their own self-esteem, or as well as their overall perceptions of the value of Black life. Whether it is buying into a standard of beauty that idealizes blonde hair and blue eyes, or doubting one's ability to achieve academically or professionally, or devaluing the importance of one's own experiences, this kind of internalized oppression has wreaked havoc on the collective psyche of the Black community. Moreover, this effort to devalue Blackness, combined with other categories of identity, can not only make Blackness invisible or less important, but it can make other parts of our identity invisible as well. For example, when we consider gender as it relates to policymaking across all sectors of our society, Black women and other gender dissents often are not fully considered either in policy design or implementation, which means that a raceless component to gender leaves Black women disproportionately negatively impacted by flawed policies and more vulnerable to the harm by those policies. And I'm going to dare to disagree on that, only because for Black men, there's no care, there's no here, there's no there, there's just law, there's Black code. But on the other hand, Black women also have to reside in this abode, right? And, they made a ruling, a Supreme Court ruling some time ago that talked about the Black hair, or Negro hair, and how it was permissible to be worn anywhere and anywhere they liked. And I do believe that the continued attack on our Negro hair now coming to the side of the male, it just ain't right. So this might be somewhat correct in its assumption. I don't know. I'm just kind of reading it, trying to take it all in. Black women are disproportionately negatively impacted by flawed policies, more vulnerable to harm. They are more vulnerable to harm. I will agree. We have 100,000 Black women that go missing in this country in just 2020 alone. 60,000, I believe, last year. There's no telling what they're pacing on. I'd just like to hear. But yes, the policies that they enforce more likely do leave Black women on a less and more rather vulnerable course. Yeah, more or less. Very well. I agree, I guess. Continuing, criminalization. In recent years, the manifestations of anti-Blackness in the context of the criminal legal system have garnered perhaps the most attention among Americans in the wake of the many high-profile police killings of Black people over the last decade. And all too familiar lists including Eric Garner, Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, George Floyd, and countless others. Now, before I continue, I wonder if we ran through a list of white victims, if we were able to allow that list to roll off our tongue, I wonder if the point would be missed. You know, Black names being just dismissed offhand as they murder us indiscriminately in this land. You know, the list goes on and on and on. We look up and suddenly Black folk are gone. I'd love to name the 13 folks that got murdered while they shopped on a Saturday. I won't do that. I'll continue on anyway. All right, yeah, anyway. White America has been forced to confront the disproportionate harm being suffered by Black communities at the hands of law enforcement. This, in addition to the collective realization among conservatives, liberals, and alike that mass incarceration generally is not only cruel, often unnecessary, and extremely expensive. It has also devastated Black and brown communities in particularly tragic ways and far-reaching ways. So I like the way that she put extremely expensive, and then after that she noticed, and it's also devastated the communities. Now, Black and brown, okay. I've heard about enough of the Black and brown combination, but I'll read it just for iteration. That's fine. Of course, the seed of anti-Blackness was planted in our criminal legal system from the very start. It is well documented that particularly in the South, state legislators passed a slew of criminal laws in the wake of emancipation, aptly referred to as Black codes, that were designed specifically to target newly freed Blacks in this equal society. Well, think of that. The Southern white establishment readily took advantage of the gaping loophole in the 13th Amendment that still allows the involuntary servitude of people in prison and used the penal system to exert physical control over a Black population that they could no longer legally enslave. I need you to hear that and in your mind put that somewhere, save. It should come as no surprise then that anti-Black racism continues to rear its ugly head in the context of the criminal legal system. As Michelle Alexander so eloquently reminded the public more than a decade ago in her groundbreaking work, The New Jim Crow, the devastating collateral consequences that accompany criminalization in this country have crippled Black people and communities over the last decades. Here we go. Once you're labeled a felon, the old forms of discrimination, employment discrimination, housing discrimination, denial of the vote to right, denial of education opportunity, denial of food stamps and other public benefits, and exclusion from jury service are suddenly legal. Now, you need to understand that the rights they take away from felons in this land are designed specifically for just the Black man. You understand that? And what does that mean, really? I think what that means is you never had those rights in the first place. They're meaningless. They're worthless. Get them out of my face. Seriously. Because if a simple mistake for the life it can take every right away from your sight, then hey, this ain't a place for Negroes to stay. As such, we have not ended racial caste in America. We have merely redesigned it. Indeed, Black people continue to be arrested, prosecuted, and severely sentenced at disproportionate rates in jurisdictions across the country. That's right. I think I read it right. When it comes to the enforcement of marijuana laws, for instance, Black people are more than 3 times likely than whites to be arrested for possession, despite the fact that usage rates among Blacks and whites are nearly identical. And you need to read that. And of course, this more likely was written just as marijuana was coming into the financial fray, before they were smitten with all it could pay. Black people are more than 3 times more likely than whites to be arrested for possession of marijuana, despite the fact that usage rates among Blacks and whites are nearly identical. And notwithstanding the growing trend toward decriminalization of marijuana across the country. Might I also pause for the cause just to say this, it's an interesting thing that happened, as this point brings out. They arrested and gave, records to Black people ad infinitum for marijuana possession. And when they legalized marijuana, they afforded white people every opportunity to take advantage of the industry that now is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And you will seldom, if rarely, I will not say never, because I know there are several Black-owned pot dispensaries, but isn't it interesting that as they transfer the illegal to legal and have previously arrested a majority of Black people, despite Black and white people using pot at the same rate because they buy a lot, if you know what I'm saying. But when it comes to selling it legally, now those same felonies that have been applied because of pot possession bar Negroes quite adept at selling marijuana, I might say. These guys are good. I mean, it really knows how to pay. But you understand the cycle of how the disinclusion, I made that word up, puts us in, and how it negatively affects our future kin, because that is now generational wealth being created, and it's moving forward unabated. And Black people are out of the conversation. You feel me? And that's when they made pot legal in this nation. Isn't that something? That's kind of ironic. I'm going to stay on point. I'm sorry. I just went there. All right. So, sorry. More generally, more Black people are arrested at a significantly higher rate than whites across almost all crimes. Further, despite accounting for just 13% of the United States population, Black people comprise approximately 40% of those serving time in jails and prisons nationwide, and nearly 50% of those serving life without parole, or virtual life sentences, because, well, they just want us out of the way. I mean, they want us here because with us comes a blessing, but all the other treatment, they don't want addressing. Health. Historical and contemporary anti-Black racism has negatively contributed to the physical, emotional, psychological health and well-being of Black people. Now, I went over this a few days ago, but I want to tell you something so that you understand this, Negroes, and you hear this. When they initiated the Emancipation Proclamation, and Southerners and Northerners got nervous because we were all over the nation, let me tell you what they thought about doing to eliminate us. What they considered doing, and check my math because I don't want to ruin my streak. What they considered doing was denying us health care. Just let them die. They get sick, they die. I need you to understand that came across my eye. I read it, I understand it, I understood it, and I reprimand it, damn it. Think about what I'm telling you, what they were willing to do. These aren't nice people that surround me and you. These aren't nice people. Listen, I know hyenas that can smile and laugh. Let's continue. In fact, in recent decades, research has shown how anti-Black racism at individual and institutional levels contributes to poor health outcomes. For example, Black people suffer from disproportionately high rates of morbidity and shorter overall life expectancy compared to other racial and ethnic groups in the United States. Welcome! This should have been named a reason for Negroes to leave the United States. I mean, seriously. Moreover, the cumulative experiences of anti-Black racism has been linked to chronic stress and weathering, a process in which biological age accelerates faster than one's chronological age. Now, let me tell you what's happening. If you look at Negroes of the early South, about the 30s, 40s, 50s, you'll see that aging. You will see it, and it will send you raging. I will tell you this, folks, and I set aside all jokes. These people are terroristic terrorizers, okay? They are not logical surmisers. They are villainous surprisers. I mean, they are hellish demon risers. I can think of it going on and all day long about what they are because we have the receipts and the view is complete. And the psychological impact of Negroes who have experienced that, I mean, it still flows down and through our generations. And it has the same kind of impact on the Negro nation. I'm going to get back to it, damn it, because I just had to say it. All right, let's go. Systematic Anti-Black racism within healthcare settings has also resulted in health disparities in testing, pain treatment, and management, and the quality of longevity of patient visits. You know, I think they're mad that Black don't crack. I really do. That's the reason I will not put my life in the hands of any healthcare worker, too. I will not. It just came to me, too. Really, I think they understand that left alone, our melanin, something that activates with sun's rays, is a curative nearly always. I do. And when they get hold of us, they test us, they poke us, they prod us. You know they do. And if we got something good, ask the HELOC gene. They'll rob us. Yeah, I did it. Whatever. Let's move forward. All right, and anti-Black attitudes. For instance, research has demonstrated that anti-Black attitudes and practices in medicine betray a significant level of disregard for Black women in particular. An example here given is mistreatment during childbirth, delayed prenatal care. They can't wait to get their hands on you in there. And most recently, we have seen the devastating impact of anti-Black structural racism in healthcare as Black communities continue to be ravaged by the COVID-19 pandemic. We all right, though. I mean, we made it. You know, most of us didn't take that shot, so I don't know. I mean, they played it, but no, I'm good. We cool. I think we pulled through on that one. From a disproportionate lack of access to testing and treatment to the prevalence of pre-existing medical conditions that make the virus more deadly, Black communities have struggled to weather the storm, and they weathered it well. And unfortunately, inequities in our healthcare system are likely to remain or get even worse for the foreseeable future as the persistence of anti-Black racism continues to be a critical barrier to enacting health policies to improve health equity. All right, social conceptions of value. Here we go. Anti-Black racism affects social conceptions and value in a myriad of ways. When Black people were stolen from their homeland and sold into slavery, we were valued for our labor, but not valued as human beings. You understand that? As noted above, the framers of the Constitution, all white men, originally assigned a value of 3/5 human to being Black, to being people. Now, let me just explain to you what that was, too. It's a very interesting story about that 3/5 human. You need to stop for a minute. It was not simply an insult to our personage as set apart royal line of David as we are. No, it's not the fact that being human, escaped their caucastic notice. No. The 3/5 human was about votes. Yeah, folks, it was about votes. It was about counting the population within a nation. So not necessarily voting per se, but the population and its sway on the governmental, indicators and where they place all their money. So 3/5 a man, the reason for it is slightly funny, but it's still what they thought. And I don't know how they bought into the 3/5 part. I don't get that. That just kind of escapes me. How you come up with that calculation? Just interesting, but that's interesting. I just wanted you to know that you need to look that up. 3/5 not just counted us, our personage to dehumanize us, but also it played a political power play in somewhat kind of way. So understand that. All right. When Black people were stolen from, we already did that. As noted, we did that. This was the result of did we do that? Yes. This is a result of a compromise made by Southern whites, look at that, who wanted to boost their representation in Congress, and Northern whites who did not want Blacks to be counted at all. Okay, they were coming to it. I'm sorry. Black people were abused, raped, castrated, malnourished, among other things, throughout the nearly 250 years of slavery in this country. When slavery was abolished, Blacks were not given any restitution for the malevolence we endured. Instead, anti-Black racism took the form of white hoods and racist laws that didn't allow Black people to exist or to experience any true freedom at all. As such, our value to American society has been rooted in our economic contribution, whether as enslaved people, prisoners, laborers, or consumers, rather than in our humanity. I need you to hear that. I need you to hear what was just said. This is how they value each and every Negro head. Okay? Our value to American society, listen carefully, has been rooted in our economic contribution. Okay? And that's whether as we were enslaved, whether we contributed in that manner, whether we are prisoners. You know, they make billions of dollars in the prison industry. Laborers are going to work contributing to the running of the country and its capitalistic society, or consumers, what we take in and spend to help support their dividends, right? But not regarding our humanity. They don't consider us human to this very day. Look, folks, here's what I'm going to say. They look you in the face and they want you in your place. It's not a human. That's not what they're consuming when they look at you. They still think you're 3/5 human too. Sorry, it's the truth. As a result, when Black people are mistreated, discriminated against, abused, or murdered, there is little concern among the powers that be. In addition, anti-Black bigotry encourages the public to dismiss harm when it is done to communities of oppressed populations. Throughout the history of this country, and even presently, Black people have been publicly attacked physically and otherwise without any significant response from the general public. Still to this day, whether it is in the wake of policing, a shooting, or in some other context, Black people have had to educate white America about the history of violence against our communities and the current acts of brutality, both figurative and literal, that continue to dominate the present Black condition. All bigotry feeds ambivalence. As the late Desmond Tutu once said, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. How interesting. But in order for the public and white America in particular to become invested in pushing back against anti-Blackness, they must find and appreciate the real value of the Black experience. Let me say this before they go on, because I'm hoping they're not going to some place I don't want to go. Let me say this. There is no value to the Black experience in America. I'm going to say that again so you hear me in the back. There's no value to the Black experience in America. It's brought us nothing but moral decay, disease, enslavement, marginalization, mitigation, prison. You know, I can't even imagine the context through which anyone might consider this to be a positive experience. This has not been a positive experience. The moment this becomes a positive experience is when we leave, because at that point it becomes a memory. So I will not have any kind of talk that says we shall overcome, because the only way to overcome is to leave, is to depart and be somewhere else, far from the association with these beings who have infected them with themselves. That's what this is. We are infected, and we have to be disinfected. And the only way to be disinfected is to remove ourselves from the infectious area. And it's not, there's no hatred involved, not really, not any malevolence I've solved. I'm not into that. I'm just saying, we got to go. It's time we leave. All right, so I'm going to end the show there, because I'm not going to go into the hope diatribe. I do appreciate your being here. I think it was a very frank and honest look into the Black experience, but I will not dive into the hope that we can overcome while still here. The only way that we can overcome is to get our asses on the run. Thank you so much, folks, for being here. Appreciate your time, and I truly appreciate you listening to my rhyme. This is the Doug Rice Show, and I do like you. I like you. Let me throw something up here to make you smile. Doug Rice Show brought to you by Twitwear. Go buy some Twitwear, folks. Please get on that dadgum twitwear.com and support a Negro enterprise that has been around for nearly 15 years. And for goodness sake, use TDRS, the promo code, and you will get the clothes to your abode with 10% off. Twitwear.com. Yeah, I like that. All right. Now, at some point, I will have folks on, but I'm gonna go ahead and get on. You guys have a wonderful day, and if you gotta be out there in public spaces, get that goddamn grin off your faces.